Hey, Rick, what did you eat last night?
I had the most amazing salad ever. I had a baby spinach salad with dates and almonds. And, it's pretty basic because you do the raw onion. You do onion, and then it had some mushrooms in it, and then it had dates. But the thing I loved about it is it had this spice I've never used, which is called sumac. Have you used that before? Mm-hmm. Super tasty. And the big thing I liked about it is you tear up little pieces of pita and then you grill that in a pan and get them really hard and toasty with the sumac, and you just throw that on the salad. Oh, God, it was tasty. I had it for a dinner party and everyone consumed it.
Some of these recipes that we're talking about are from a cookbook that we love called Jerusalem, and he uses a lot of Middle Eastern, ottolenghi uses a lot of Middle Eastern spices, and sumac is one of them. And it's also an ingredient in another spice blend that he uses a lot of that I'm blanking on. It'll come back to me, but it's really delicious and good to have on hand.
And a great book, yeah.
A great book, a beautiful book, too.
How about you?
I had leftover sweet potato chicken and chipotle hash that I had made for a brunch the day before, and the day before I had poached an egg and put it on top and made this green chili hollandaise to go on top of it. Nice. But for my leftovers, I just had the hash by itself, and it was really tasty. Well, cilantro, scallion, chipotle, chicken, sweet potato, not a whole lot else. Well, maybe a little honey or something. It was really, really yummy.
Oh, that sounds yummy.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night. I'm Kate DeVore.
And I'm Rick Fiore.
And this is our ongoing conversation about food, health, weight management, and our endeavor to be and stay healthy in a really tasty world.
With love, kindness, and compassion towards ourselves and others.
It's friendship, just the perfect blendship.
So the holiday season is hurtling toward us already at this point, and it's often a time of hanging out with friends. And so we thought this would be a really nice moment to have a conversation about friendships, about what friendship does for us in terms of our health and just well-being, and also what it means in terms of eating and food issues as well.
So we have to come clean. We just hung out with friends, mutual friends, and we had a very rough weekend with everything that we ate. Very rough people. So this is our admitting we so fell off the wagon this weekend.
Yeah, so we are a cautionary tale.
Don't do as we say. Don't do as we do.
That's right. An after-school special, in fact, is what we are.
So we have this really great group of friends that are based out of Chicago. And we've had this history of hanging out with them for numerous years over the past, 5, 6, 7, I don't even know how many years.
Yeah.
So we had decided to all get together, and we were going to rent a houseboat, and we were going to sail down the old Mississippi.
That's right. The Mississippi.
The old Mississippi. And the whole idea is that this is a boat you rent, and you basically learn, you get a 20-minute training session on how to drive the boat.
Yeah, basically.
And then they set you free with a boat, and you're just going up and down the river. And so that was really sort of the first craziness. And so also one of the big component of this is we all bring food, we all bring drinks. It's a great weekend to get together. We try to do something fun. We play games, we cook a lot, we eat a lot, and just generally have tons of fun.
The history is that we hang out with these people plus some other people usually in around this time of year, around Halloween, and rent a cabin in the woods. And they've been doing it for years and do a big scavenger hunt. And it's just debauchery, eating and drinking and playing games and just being silly and scaring each other. So we moved it to a houseboat this year with a slightly smaller group. But a lot of it didn't change.
Well, that part we used to do around Halloween every weekend. So it'd be this big weekend about watching scary movies, and you'd try to go to bed one time, you'd pull back the sheets and there would be a fake bloody body limb on your pillow. Yeah. So many times you'd just be sitting in the living room and somebody would be like, I'm going to bed, and then 2 minutes later you just hear a scream because they found something really scary in their bed.
Yeah, so we took the fear factor out, except for the part that we were driving a giant 12-person houseboat down the Mississippi with no knowledge of how to do that. We traded our fake scary in for real scary.
We had no idea how to park it. We park it. What do? You dock it. We had no idea how to dock a boat.
Right, exactly.
And that we just did from drawings.
The problem was the food. So, So Sue and Steve brought most of the sort of main courses, and Rick and I brought the snacks and drinks. It was not good.
I don't even know where to begin. Kate and I went to Costco and we just bought so many things. You know, it's this weekend where everything's around. We bought this big thing of macadamia nuts. We bought this big...
Giant, like the biggest thing of macadamia nuts you have ever seen.
And when I bought them, I was like, oh, I'm sure all of these won't get eaten. I'll have some to take home on the flight. And then we bought some peanut butter, peanut butter pretzels, some chocolate covered peanut butter pretzels. There was, what else was there?
Chocolate covered salted caramels and some sort of Cracker Jack thing. And I made like a pesto cream cheese dip with Triscuits, and there were chips and salsa and all sorts of stuff like that.
And that's not even the main
and
meals. Wine. For some of the main meals, Sue made these really great sliders, sort of these sort of fake Sloppy Joe sliders. They were really, really good. Other ones had, I think, artichoke on them and cheese. Yeah.
Yes, she made like Cuban sandwiches. So one set of those had meat and the other one had artichoke stuff for you. And then she also made lentil Sloppy Joes. And the rest of us also had steak.
Because there was a grill on the boat. So, of course, the steak was grilled.
Oh, my God. And then there was mac and cheese and quiche and bacon and breakfast burritos and quinoa. And it was just a constant walk by of eating because it was a small boat. So every time you went anywhere, you passed this counter where all the food was. So it was painfully easy to just grab a macadamia on your way, which they didn't even make. They not only didn't last the weekend, I think they were gone like the first day, if I'm not mistaken.
Right?
Oh my God.
Crazy.
So there are pros and cons of friendship, obviously. And one of the cons is if you're not careful, this can happen to you.
And learn from our example, people. When you're around friends, keep it together.
Exactly. We have to manage ourselves. We've discussed this. We have to manage ourselves. Oh, my God. So why are friends so important? How important would you say, Rick, friends are in your life?
They're the single most important thing I have going on, I would say. You know, when you play that game and people say, if you won $1 million and you didn't have to work, what would you do? I'd always be like, you know, I would hang out with my family and friends and travel.
And travel with my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would also take a lot of classes. But anyway.
And let's both admit that $1 million won't really last that long anymore. So
I know. Remember when it used to be you thought you could quit working for your whole life if you had $1 million, and now I don't think you can.
No,
That's
I mean, we're
really
talking
crazy.
probably at least 3, 5. So you can invest and live on a middle class income, maybe.
Exactly. Not if you want to travel like we do. Exactly.
Exactly. So, you know, I always just am so grateful for my friends because I never really thought that I would have the friends that I have now. I don't know why when I was younger, I just thought I didn't really get this concept of long-lasting friends and long-term friends. Part of it is because I moved in high school. So I moved my senior year in high school. So I don't really have this group of people to look back to beyond that. So I thought, oh, I guess this is just how it is. So then basically when I met Kate, particularly in my last 3 years of college, is where I formed a lot of my friends. And then after that, so that's when I really started to realize, oh, I'm going to have these friends that last. I'll actually get this thing. So this thing that's super important. And so it just is. Today, it's the single greatest thing that makes me happy. If my friends only knew how much more time I wanted to spend with them than I actually do, they think I was psycho.
No, I get it. For me too. And there's the concept of chosen family, right? And definitely, I think that our friends are our chosen family. And for me in particular, because I have a very small biologic family, pretty much it's me and my mom and a couple of other people that I'm getting a little bit closer to that I'm related to, but didn't grow up with. So I did have a history of intense friendship from an early age, but there's only one friend from before college that I'm still in touch with.
Oh, interesting.
Actually. So, so they didn't necessarily last till now. I'm always amazed at people who are still friends with their middle school friends. And I know that there's people like that. But I always, neither of my parents were social in that way. And they sort of scratched their head a little bit at my behavior, how I just would seek out friends and friends were the most important.
Oh, interesting.
And it always has been. I've always been a social creature. And interestingly, as I get older and older, I'm still equally social and need that connection. And I also want to spend more and more time alone.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Huh. I'm trying to think if I do. I don't know if I want to spend more time alone. I think it just sort of happens naturally.
No, I like it. It's that introversion, extroversion line that I walk. I really walk a fine line. Sometimes when I take the tests, I come out as an introvert. Sometimes I come out as an extrovert. So I think I'm really kind of in the middle of that continuum.
I always forget that about you.
I do have a strong introverted streak, which most people wouldn't think, but I really do.
Totally. I wonder how I'd come out on those tests. Oh, well.
I think more extroverted.
Yeah, I would think so.
You're really good in a group. Like you do an amazing job of walking into a group of people and not just, I'm assuming, feeling comfortable. You certainly appear comfortable, making conversation and stuff. And I used to love that. I don't know what happened. Now I'd rather just be on the couch by myself or with one or two other people or a dog or something like that. Like that would meet my needs better, I think, in some ways.
It's because it's the devil called Netflix. No harm to Netflix, but we are looking for sponsors.
That's right. Witness Chef's Table, our last episode. Yeah. And then, of course, there's a lot of science. You know how I love my science.
I do. Thank God.
That backs up our idea here that friendship is good for your health. So I think most people know this. The biggest thing that it's linked to is a hormone called oxytocin, which is known as the cuddle hormone. And it's released when people snuggle up or bond socially. It can also be released by playing with a dog, and it's released in dogs as well. We'll post an article on Facebook about this that my friend Cheryl just shared with me about bonding with dogs and what happens to your oxytocin and theirs when that happens. So it's important for bonding and stuff. And the other thing is that it can also intensify memories of bonding gone bad, such as in cases where men have poor relationship with their mothers. So it can make people either less accepting of people or feel cuddly, depending on the environment. So I think that's interesting, and it explains why in an intimate moment, sometimes people, particularly men, can just sort of get vacant and disappear.
Totally, Kate.
Right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
No, not at all. Never experienced it.
Yeah, so fascinating. That could be an oxytocin thing.
Yeah, totally.
So that was the thing I learned about from looking this up this time that I thought was really fascinating, that it can either be really helpful or it can be sort of tragic to release oxytocin, depending on your life experiences.
Hey, Kate, did you know that an average ear of corn has an even number of rows, usually 16?
No, but you know,
well,
I'm going to count the next time I get one.
You will. I was wondering if that's because everything's genetically modified now. Is that why we know that? Some of the other fun things, sort of more practical things, is what I always love is that friends, they help you, they sort of give you feedback, right? So they're a big thing that sort of help you define who you are, because they're sort of the primary people giving you feedback on how you are, how you react, all that stuff. And they sort of influence you that way. I also think they obviously support you through thick and thin, right? So they're a major thing that we use to get through life. And what I've also discovered that, on a really practical level, friends are also really important for getting more friends, because I've met so many friends through my friends.
Totally. And there are certain friends. Melissa is my friend in this group. She's a connector. There's certain friends you have that it's like their thing is that they connect people and that they're exceptionally good at that.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to have those people in my life. Yeah. And so having good relationships, and it doesn't have to be a lot. It just has to be a very small number of close friends. It's quality more than quantity, but it increases not only your quality of life, but also your length of life. And it helps with, there's health things. Do you remember what it does? Like it does actual physical things like blood pressure. It helps with your blood pressure. It does a lot of things that stress reduction does.
It reduces your stress. It tends to make you happier. It reduces your blood pressure, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And people without close friends, this is the part that also slayed me here,
Say it.
Have a risk of premature death that is 50% higher than people with close bonded friendships.
That is tough.
So the effective mortality risk is roughly comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day and greater than obesity and being sedentary, physically inactive. Is having no friends, which is freaky when you look at how easy it is to get less and less invested in your friends as you get to be an older person.
Agreed. This is one of the things I always like to talk about in my classes, which is as one of the hardest things we can do, or one of the hardest things to do as we get older is to stay open. is to keep putting yourself out there, because there is this thing I always like to think of, friend fatigue, that you know how much work it goes into being a friend, to starting a friendship, to maintaining a friendship, to working through a friendship, to making a friendship exist on a deep level. That takes a lot of work. And I think as you get older, you're often not up for it.
Yeah. And I think most people I know who are older do tend to get a little bit more reclusive, a little bit less just willing to make the effort to go out and do stuff. And I already see it at my age changing. So I can't, 30 years from now, I think that's going to be really an important thing to keep in mind. It's sort of like doing crosswords to keep your brain active, or doing something to try to stave off senility or dementia or things like that. It's the same thing. You got to flex that friend muscle and make a point of exercising it the way you would exercise your brain or your body.
We'll have to make sure we live in the same city, because then I'll just come by, make sure I come by at least once a week, knock on the door and be like, Kate, get off the couch now.
Well, we've already discussed we're going to be in a community somewhere. We've been discussing this since college.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of community, I live in the real life version of Cocoon. I don't know if you remember this movie. Yeah. Is it from the 80s? And it's just
I think so, yeah.
This place where lots of old people live, and there's this magical pool, right? And whenever they get in the pool, they feel young and whatever, and they start, I guess, reversing their age. And I just live in this community where it's like 60% original owners from the 1960s. So when I go around this place, there's a lot of elderly people. And I'm saying elderly, I'm talking like definitely 85, 90, like that's how long they've been around. And I definitely noticed two types of people. I noticed those types of people that are really outgoing. They say hi to me. They're like really positive. They're interested in getting together. And I'm like, oh, that's so great. That's how I want to be. It's a great reminder. Then there's also these other people who you walk down the hallway, it's almost as if I'm invisible. They don't look at you. They don't make contact. They're perfectly capable of it, because I've seen them do it other places. And so they serve as this reminder of, wow, Rick, remember, you got to fight that tendency to just shut off, even on the most basic level. Hi on the elevator, hey at the pool, what's new when you're on the rooftop, all that stuff.
My little condo building is people of varying ages, many younger than me, but nobody will talk to me in the hallway anyway. So I don't understand, but nobody will talk to anybody. So
it's very odd, because I've never lived in a condo building before like this, and there's like 500 units where I live. It's pretty big. So I just assumed, call me crazy, that if you move into a place like this, you actually have skills that allow you to exist in places like the common areas, like elevators, hallways, and lobbies. But apparently not.
Wait, they're lacking skills to exist in the elevator?
Yeah, they just don't have normal interaction skills. I can be
like social function skills.
I'll get on, be like, hi, how are you? This is what I've been doing lately. I'll get on, I'll say, hi, how are you? And of course, there's no reaction. And then I just turn towards the door, and I've done this twice where I start to mutter under my breath, I'm good. Thanks for asking. Which unfortunately is only going to lead to me looking like the crazy one on the 5th floor.
Yeah, right. Hopefully they can hear you. Who knows?
And maybe that's why they don't talk to me.
Yeah, because you're the crazy one. Exactly. Yeah. So do you think, Rick, that you eat more or less healthfully in general when you're with other people? Because the research on this is mixed. Some of it says we eat more healthily, and some of it says we eat less healthily. What's your experience?
Well, my experience is I really succumb to peer pressure. So I generally feel like whatever the dynamic is, I'm going to roll with it. So generally, if I go over someone's house, and that's obviously the best case, because I'm definitely good about eating whatever's put out in front of me. But I also I can feel like if someone's getting like a salad and soup, I'm always like, oh God, I guess I should get it. I guess I should get something similar to that. So that influences me a little bit. And then I also love when I sit down and the first thing someone wants to order is, I don't know, the French fries covered in a buffalo sauce with a side of blue cheese. I'm down for that. I succumb very easily. Rarely am I like, no, I can't. How about you?
I've been trying to figure it out, and I can't find a pattern. It really depends on what's going on internally, but I think overall, I'm more prone to mindless eating if I'm in a situation like on the houseboat or like those Halloween weekends or something like that. Like if there's just snacks, or even at a party, like a holiday party, which is sort of part of what we're aiming to talk about here, that if there's people around and it's social and it's fun, there is definitely that tra-la-la attitude, and I'm more prone to just shoveling it in without paying any attention to what I'm actually eating. And before you know it, you've consumed your whole day's calories without even liking or noticing what you ate. Or I should say. So I've definitely had that experience.
What's so interesting about that is I think when I'm around these events, like we're on the houseboat, it was so fun. And I really remember being so cognizant of how wonderful these people are. I'm so lucky that I have this group to gather with once a year. And I'm like being really mindful about that. At the same time, I have in my hand pretzels and macadamias and they go right in my mouth. You know what I mean? So it's always so interesting to be really mindful about one thing at the time, and then this other thing, you're just completely like, whatever. Yeah, and it is that whole ability just in the moment to just, and we've talked about this before, this whole idea, how do you really get into that idea of just not throwing everything away, right? Since you're there and since you have this one dynamic, it's not an excuse, it's not a reason to really, go overboard.
Yeah. But I'm thinking, like, if I go out for pizza with people, or if I have pizza at home alone, I don't think I'm going to eat more or less in either of those environments. You know what I mean? I don't think there's I'm not going to eat more because I'm with people, and I'm not going to eat more because I'm not with people.
I guess now that you're saying that, when I think about it, I think the more I know them, the more likely I am to eat how I normally eat. The less I know them, I'm more likely to be on good behavior.
See, I think that's the thing. I think I pretty much always either eat how I normally eat or worse.
I get you.
When I'm with people.
I get you.
When I was eating really healthily, it would always be really convenient to go out to eat with small women, physically small women, because we'd be like, let's share the salad and this one little sandwich. And it was great. So it also does depend on that. But that's because that's how I was eating then.
Yeah. You just make me think of just that whole socialization thing of just about how important it is, right? Because I'm like, sometimes I think my kingdom for someone that calls me up and says, hey, Rick, you want to go out? I'm like, yes. And they're like, great, let's go for a hike. I'm like, that would be awesome. But that never happens.
We've talked about this too, that socialization always seems to revolve around food. Even if you do something else, even if you go to a movie or a play or a concert, there seems to always be food or drinking around it, if not during it.
Yeah.
And it's really hard when I do cleanses or I'm eating really well. It's really hard to socialize because it's hard to come up with activities that don't involve food. My friend Brad the other day was like, our next several activities together involve food. And I was thinking, well, when don't they? I can't remember a time that we had an activity that didn't involve food.
Totally.
Yeah. How do you think people behave when you have a term?
Oh.
We just talked to, say,
So,
talk, you know what I'm talking about?
One of the things I can't bear anymore is when people have me over to their house, particularly around the holidays. And this happens just at regular dinner parties. There's so much food made. I can't bear the quantity of food because it's always overmade. There's always such an excessive amount. And then they don't want it in their house. So then they insist on giving it to you. So I call them food pushers because that's all they ever want to do is push their food right on me. And then I go out the door. And I'm always thinking, oh my God, I don't want this food. Now I'm stuck with it. So there's been many times, and this just happened the other night. Someone gave me something and I just didn't want any more of it. It wasn't terrible, but they just gave it to me. I'm like, and I was very grateful. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Because I knew there's no way out of not taking it home. So I'm like, grateful. I'm like, great, awesome, kisses, leaving you. I get in the car. I roll down the window. I open up the container and I throw it out. I'm like, good luck, squirrels. And I drive away.
And that's how rats overtook DC.
Because I'm very good about this idea that if I have it in my house, there's a strong chance it's going to be consumed.
Strong. It's a strong chance.
So I'm just like, I'd rather not, because I'm like, I know it's good. It's really good, but I don't need any more of it. And I know there's a strong chance I could wake up and instead of my yogurt, have that for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one needs it.
You're so right. I actually went to a friend's place last night, a neighbor, and had tea. And that was it. it was a novel thing. We would have had wine, but I only had red wine and she doesn't drink red wine. And then I actually remembered I had a bottle of Prosecco in the fridge, but by the time I was leaving, I was like, it's 8:00. I'm kind of tired. I don't know that I want to, because once you open it, then then I have this open bottle of Prosecco. And so I was like,
You'll have to
man,
finish it.
yeah. So she offered, snacks, and I was like, no, I'm good, because I'd already eaten dinner. And so we just had tea. So that was lovely. So that's a thing one could do. But there is this cultural thing about feeding people. It's always been a part of many cultures, I imagine, have it, right? But it's a huge thing. And even though I'm not technically Jewish, my dad's side of the family was, so there was a big sort of cultural element of that in my upbringing. And you feed people. That's part of what you do. And
nurture them.
Yes, it's a nurturing. It's social. In Turkey, for example, when you go into someone's home or a shop, they offer you tea, and it's rude to turn it down.
Wow.
And our tour guide told us that he was like this maybe 30-year-old, very handsome man. And he was like, I'm going to have to start watching my sugar, because he's like, I probably drink 20 cups of tea a day, and each one of those I take sugar in. So he has like 20 sugar cubes a day just in tea. It would be rude to refuse. Yeah,
totally. Because I like that. I like being able to take care of my friends and, with food. And here's the thing. You and I have talked a lot about this. We appreciate what goes into people cooking. And when you go over to someone's house and they've gone through such labor to make you a really splendid meal, we all know how that feels. And I love that. And I love being able to give that to other people.
Gonna try a little help from my friend.
And I love cooking for people. It's one of my favorite things, and it's one of the ways that I show love and caring and affection is by cooking for people, because it's a lot of work, takes a lot of planning and a lot of time, and I take pride in it, and it's true. And that's, again, one of those things that my mom and I, as you know, share, and it's become a hobby. And she was like, food is just endlessly fascinating because you're going to have to eat, so you might as well enjoy it.
Yeah, totally. And so this really sort of brings us to our big idea, right? As we hurtle forward into this coming holiday season, like this idea, here's what I always like to think about it. Like, it's so easy to be busy. It's easy to get to, like, really, once November hits, to be in this mode of checking things off a list of all the things you have to get done between now and the new year, including like coming up with a new year resolution that you're somehow going to stick to, right? It's easy to get lost in so many things. To really, when you are with friends, again, what does it come back to? Really obviously appreciating being with them. But also when it comes to the food, I really wanted this season really try and separate those two, or be cognizant of both of them a little bit more. Because as I said, definitely I'm into appreciating the friends thing, but then that just makes me mindless about the food intake. So I think that's where I'm thinking of going into this season to work on.
Totally. I am all about not mindlessly eating, or mindfully eating, I guess one could say.
Yeah.
But it's different. Like, when I think of mindful eating, that's like something serious and specific that I'm doing, that I'm being very mindful about it. But when I think of just not mindlessly eating, it just means that I'm not being an idiot about it. So I feel like there's this area in the middle that is doable of paying attention. And we said this in our very first episode. We're coming up on almost a whole year. Our first episode was a holiday episode, and this was one of the things I talked about then. And here I am an entire freaking year later saying the same thing. If it's not worth it, don't eat it.
Ugh, totally.
There's a lot of times that I will eat 500 calories of something that's not very good just because it was sitting there in front of me. Yeah.
You make me think back to that. I was just going to say something too about that first podcast. I don't know if you remember this, but I remember at least 3 different times during the holiday season when I texted you pictures of me in a chair, literally sitting right next to the buffet table.
Right, because one of our tips in that first episode, if you don't remember it, because of course everyone listening has heard it, but if you don't remember it, was to not sit right by the buffet table, because then you're screwed.
All right, so I think I've made progress in here. That's good. I'm not going to sit by the buffet table. There's something to be said for that. That's good.
This is very good. This is very good. Okay, so before we wrap up, we have a little piece of bonus audio for you, because we told you about our houseboat experience. So we had a little episode on the houseboat, a little moment that we are going to share with you right now. So how's your morning been, Rick?
Funny you ask, Kate. I just saved a crew of 6 as the captain of the boat. We washed ashore. We got grounded, and the only way it appeared to get free, I'm still out of breath, was to me get in the water and push the boat, the big houseboat, away from shore.
He pushed a giant, theoretically 12-person boat or something out of the shore or beach as though he were pushing a car out of a snowbank. In the water, up to his armpits.
And as we got it free, Kate, with her agility, got the boat moving in the right direction away from shore, freed us.
That's right. We were co-captains, but Rick did the true captain job at this point and made the sacrifice. And Sue, what was your experience in this whole thing?
Trying to pull Rick back on the boat, which didn't happen at all.
How did that go? What did he say when you were trying? What did he yell?
Save yourself!
I didn't even know he was in the water, but I just hear Rick yelling, Sue, save yourself! Save yourself! And I'm like, wait, is Rick in the water?
I got the boat free, and I'm hanging off the side of the boat. Sue has me by my wrists.
Oh my God.
And I have so little. This is where I wish I had so much more upper body strength to actually move my entire body weight. I tried to pull myself up. I tried to throw a leg up to get a grip, but I couldn't. And then I just had to let myself go to save the rest of the ship.
And then Steve decided we needed to make a U-turn, so there was a point at which we were really far away from Rick on the shore, which was also really funny. Just Rick standing there on the shore, and we're like waving goodbye. All right, well, and it's only like 9 a.m. So there we have it.
Just looking for a friend.
As always, thanks for listening. We appreciate you so much. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. This podcast is supported by the generous, awesome people such as yourselves. So if you'd like to do that, there's a link on our our what do you call it, Kate? What do they call
Website.
it? Website. Thank you.
Website. You had it. Yep.
These newfangled terms really get me. And
Yep, you won't believe what I ate.com.
Thank you. And it's a PayPal link, and you can donate there.
And for those of you that have used Patreon in the past, we're most grateful. And we also understand that it was cumbersome and annoying, so we're not using Patreon anymore. So straight PayPal through our website. And please send us emails, send us audio clips, send us questions. Subscribe to us on YouTube, because we know a lot of you are listening and you're not subscribed on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you won't believe what I ate, please subscribe, because we need the numbers on Google. So even if that's not how you listen, subscribe on there anyway, because we need the help. And we're getting really serious about starting to upload videos on our off weeks. And so in the new year, we're going to be doing a lot more little videos that we're doing. We're doing our shawarma talks and some other things that are going to be fun. So definitely subscribe on YouTube's and not iCloud, SoundCloud. Yep, iTunes, of course. Anywhere else that they're supposed to subscribe?
iTunes, SoundCloud, you got them. iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube, baby.
Okay, good. Like our Facebook page, and we will see you in a couple weeks. Thanks so much. Bye, friends.